All right, Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachah HaKodash, double honors unto the apostles and elders of great millstone who rule well. Salutations to you, sincere and hopefully elect Akim, Ma'arabai, Allah. That's to say, 144,000. All right, the 1/3 pushing the word of Yahweh Hashem Yahshua in spirit and in truth. Coming back with another lesson. And I believe the title to this lesson will be Dirtbag Edomites. All right, because when you go throughout history, especially dealing with the Israelites, you always find that, the nation of Edom, in regards to Israel, always do some dirtbag stuff. All right, they always do some underhanded dirtbag stuff to the Israelites. Okay, and so I just want to edify on some points dealing with that. And I'm gonna start here in First Ezra, the 4th chapter, verse 45. It says, actually, hold on, give me just 1 second. All right, so I had to pull this up in the GNT. I wanted to read it in the GNT, not the regular KJV. So this is First Ezra 4:45. In the GNT, it says, "You also promised to rebuild the temple which the Edomites burned down when the Babylonians devastated the land of Judah." All right, so when the Babylonians came through and carted off, millions of Israelites into captivity from the land of Judah, you had the Edomites that, burned down the temple, man. Here it is, the Babylonians themselves carted us off into captivity, destroyed, the temple and the, parts of the land or whatnot. They devastated it. But then you got the Edomites that come through after them and actually raise it to the ground. That burned it down. You know what I'm saying? That's that's a messed up. All right, but let you have it. Let Esau tell it. Excuse me. Let Esau tell it. Oh, we're cool. They were supposed to be. Jacob and Esau were supposed to be, civil around these times. Even though it's always been Salaki, man. Even though it's always been, friction between both nations, it was still supposed to be some type of civilness that both nations had between them. Okay, but you got Esau that burnt down the temple to show you what was really within Esau's heart. I'm gonna jump down to verse 50. Verse 49 says, "The emperor also provided letters for all the Jews who wished to return to Jerusalem. These letters guaranteed their freedom and ordered all governors, treasurers, and other administrators not to interfere with them in any way." All right, so this was when we were coming back from exile back into the land, and we had the right to go back and rebuild. Okay, verse 50, it says, "All the land that they acquired was to be exempt from taxation, and the Edomites were to surrender the villages they had taken from the Jews." All right, because you had the Edomites who their land is south of Judah. All right, south of the Negev. And let me see. Salaki, man. All right, Salaki, man. I had to clear my throat, man. Woke up with a itchy throat. All right, so here, right here, where you see the blue, this is the land of Edom. All right, in biblical times. Now, it said that that these Edomites should hand over the towns that they took of Edom. I mean, excuse me, that they took in Judea from the Jews. All right, from the tribe of Judah. Now, when you go west, all right, um, where you see here the Demona, all right. Currently, that's where you got Israelites dwelling. That's where they put all those Jakes that went over to Israel I believe in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, something like that. They stuck them all there in Demona, which I think there's a nuclear site or some type of radiation that is contaminates that area, if I'm not mistaken. Um, but that's all the Negev, all right, which is all this region here, all this desert is the Negev. That's south of Judah's land. Well, it is Judah's land, but that's the Negev. So you had the Edomites that moved west into that area and took over. So they were ordered to surrender those lands back to the proper owners, which were the Israelites. All right, when we came back from exile. All right, Salaki, man. All right, Salaki, man. Throat is hella itchy. All right, we're getting back to it, man. Okay, so verse 50, once again, it says, all the land that they acquired, talking about the Edomites, was to be, or excuse me, the Israelites coming back from captivity. All right, all the land that they acquired was to be exempt from taxation, and the Edomites were to surrender the villages they had taken from the Israelites. Okay, and so I showed you on the map the land that the Edomites had taken from Israel, in particular the Jews. All right, the tribe of Judah. Now, actually, I want to grab this here from Deep Seek. So I asked Deep Seek, what role did the Edomites play during the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians? Okay, so what part did the Edomites play in helping the Babylonians? It says the Edomites played a controversial and often condemned role during the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians in 587/586 BC, according to biblical accounts. They not only failed to assist their kin, the Israelites, but actively participated in or facilitated the devastation. Here's a detailed breakdown of their actions and the biblical perspective. All right. So here in Deep Sea, they're saying that you had the Edomites that facilitated some of that devastation, which they did facilitate it because they actually burned down the temple. It wasn't enough that the Babylonians came and destroyed it, but they had to burn it down to the ground. All right. So, uh, number one, it says betrayal and complicity in the sack of Jerusalem. It says the Edomites, descendants of Esau, Jacob's brother, are accused of joining or supporting the Babylonians during the siege and the fall of Jerusalem. Biblical texts describe them as shouting, raise it to its foundation. Psalms 137:7, as the city was destroyed. They allegedly blocked escape routes for fleeing Israelites. I'm going to say Israelites, Judeans, all right, Israelites, the southern kingdom. And you had a northern kingdom mixed up in there as well, despite them being carted off into captivity under the Assyrians sometime earlier. You always had that, remnant of the northern kingdom that, stuck close to, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. It says capturing and handing over survivors to the Babylonians. Obadiah 1:10-14. This is framed as a brutal act of betrayal against their brother nation. All right. So I got both those scriptures queued up, and we'll read them. So I'm gonna read it in the KJV and the NLT, and I'm gonna start here at verse 7. It says, "Remember, O Lord Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it, even to the foundations thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones." Okay, so it mentions both judgment for Esau and for Babylon for what they did to Israel. All right. So here in the NLT, starting at verse 7, it reads, "O Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, remember what the Edomites did on the day the armies of Babylon captured Jerusalem. Destroy it," they yelled. "Level it to the ground. O Babylon." So they cheered on and were excited about wanting the temple completely destroyed. We don't want to see no remnant of the temple even ever being here. We want it level to the ground, meaning there's nothing from pertaining to the temple that protrudes upward from the foundation of the ground. We want it to be level with the ground. That's the nature of Esau, Edom, man. All right. You even have a certain there's a town somewhere in the south that Esau actually destroyed it and then made a lake out of it. Just showing you that's within Esau's nature to completely want to just whitewash and destroy history. Completely eradicate it. Cover it up with something else of theirs, to where that history of removing their neighbors' landmarks. That's pretty much what Esau likes to do. Okay. It says, "O Babylon, you will be destroyed. Happy is the one who pays you back for what you have done to us." Okay. And we actually are going to pay Babylon back for what they did to us. Okay. So currently, the modern day Babylon is America. Okay. Because ancient Babylon, they got destroyed. All right. You had various kingdoms that took them down. All right. You had, if I'm not mistaken, the Medes took over Babylon. All right, you can read about that in the book of Daniel. um, but the modern day Babylon, all right, the daughter of Babylon, America, they have to get paid back for what they did to Israel as well. Okay, for what they're doing to us currently. All right, and it just so happens that under this current Babylonian rule, you have the Edomites in the position of power. So that's a double whammy right there. Verse 9, it says, happy is the one who takes your babies and smashes them against the rocks. And that's going to be a great, great jovial experience for the children of Israel that's going to be able to partake in smashing Edomite babies, all right, against the rocks, all right, which we'll do in the kingdom. We ain't going to do here on this side. All right, well, this is pretty much the bus stop. We waiting for our salvation on this side, but in the kingdom, please believe we gonna have our way, man. Okay. Now, my next precept is Obadiah, because it mentioned Obadiah once again. It says this bullet point number 2 for number 1. It says they allegedly blocked. Ain't no goddamn allegedly. They did it. All right. They blocked escape routes for fleeing Judeans, capturing and handing over survivors to the Babylonians. Okay. And this is framed as a brutal act of betrayal against their brother nation. All right, because Jacob and Esau both come from one man, from the loins of one man, from Isaac, or forefather Isaac. All right, spawned both Jacob and Esau, twins. And this is not the way you treat a twin brother. You know, if you sincerely got care for your twin brother, and you see harm and danger coming for your twin brother, you would want to, take up arms and go to war with him or help him escape, not hand him over to the enemy. All right, seeing him in distress, and you laughing and partaking in aiding that distress, that's not brotherly love, man. Okay, in which the Most High made it that way for us to be justified and whooping Esau's ass in the end. Okay, it's all biblical prophecy. So this is Obadiah 1 and starting at 10. I'll read down in the KJV, then I'm gonna read the NLT. It says, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captives his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou wast as one of them." Okay, so the Edomites pretty much played the role of the Babylonians. They were just like the Babylonians when Jake was trying to get up out of there. "But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother, in the day that he became a stranger, neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction, neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people, and in the day of their calamity, yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity." Excuse me. Yeah, okay. "Nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity." So they were pillaging and spoiling the houses of the Israelites that were carted off into captivity, whatever was left behind, just ransacking and doing a Edomite thing. It says, "Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape, because you did have Israelites that were able to manage, to get up out of there. But then you see this red, sweaty, musty Edomite, with a sword, blocking you from getting up out of there, man. Handing you over to the Babylonians. Okay. Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress. Okay. There's more to it, but for the sake of time, let me run back up here to verse 10 in the NLT. And Salakia, man, pardon my throat, man. Woke up itchy throat, man. Ate some honey and took some oregano oil, so hopefully that do something. It feels a little better, but like shit. But Esau playing with the fucking weather. That's what it is, man. This week, first couple of days is all doom and gloom and colder than what it's supposed to be and lightweight wet outside, and then a couple of days later it's all sunny and hot. It's June. It's supposed to be summertime, man. And this fucking demonic ass devil we reading about playing with the weather, man. But that right there in itself will cause you to get sick. On top of the shit they spray in the sky, the chemtrails and shit. So Salaki, man. All right, verse 10 in the NLT. It says, because of the violence you did to your close relatives in Israel, you will be filled with shame and destroyed forever. When they were invaded and stood aloof, you stood aloof, okay? Aloof means pretty much like, I don't fuck with y'all. You're standoffish, pretty much. So here it is, Jacob and Esau are supposed to be relatives, being that they came from the same forefather. But when you see them, the Israelites, when you see us getting invaded, you standing aloof like shit, cheering it on, like shit. Take them down. We don't fuck with them. Take them into captivity. Shit, we don't give a fuck. That was the sentiment of the Edomites, man. All right. When they were invaded, you stood aloof, refusing to help them. Foreign invaders carried off their wealth and cast lots to divide up Jerusalem, but you acted like one of Israel's enemies. You should not have gloated when they exiled your relatives to distant lands. You should not have rejoiced when the people of Judah suffered such misfortune. You should not have spoken arrogantly in that terrible time of trouble. Okay, so it said that Judah suffered misfortune. They rejoiced when Judah suffered misfortune. All right, and they do the same thing now. Whenever we as Israelites, not just Judah but all 12 tribes, whenever we suffer misfortune, man, Esau they get off on that, man. All right, they rejoice. They make merry. Okay, they celebrate it. All right, they have a grand old time. When Jacob, the Israelites are struggling, are going through some type of hard time, man. Okay. It says you should not have plundered the land of Israel when they were suffering such calamity. You should not have gloated over their destruction when they were suffering such calamity. You should not have seized their wealth when they were suffering such calamity. You should not have stood at the crossroads killing those who tried to escape. You should not have captured the survivors and handed them over in their terrible times of trouble. So you just had Esau catching Jakes, all right, that was trying to escape and taking them to the Babylonians and selling them to the Babylonians if they were able to make a profit. You probably had Esau trying to get some money. Hey, they were trying to get away, man. Hey, we'll sell these Jews to you. All right, that's Esau always trying to make a profit, man. Okay, so let's get some more of this. Two, opportunistic exploitation. It says while Judah was weakened by the Babylonian invasion, the Edomites are said to have taken advantage of the chaos, settling in the southern parts of Judah, the Negev, okay, and expanding, which is that region that I showed on the map, and expanding their territory. Some scholars suggest this was a mix of military aggression and gradual migration. The prophet Ezekiel condemns Edom for seizing Judean land with wholehearted joy and spiteful minds. All right, Ezekiel 36 and 5. So let's grab that. I got it queued up. And let's let me see if I want to start up. Yeah, I'll start up. As you see, it says the mountains of Israel to be blessed, the restoration for Israel. It says in the KJV also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because the enemy has said against you, Aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession. All right, I'm talking about them goddamn Edomites. Therefore prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen, and ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are in infamy of the people, because that's how the people feel. All the nations feel whenever Israelites come to mind for these heathens, it's always for something negative. Okay, they always talking negative about us. Verse 4, therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh to the mountains and to the hills, to the rivers and to the valleys, to the desolate wastes, and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and a derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about you. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea. All right, it mentions Idumea in particular. Okay, all the heathen, but the main person being the Edomites. Okay, which have appointed my land into their possession. The audacity, man. You know what I'm saying? Think of that. The audacity of Esau, some cave dwellers, to take the Most High's land, his special land, his favorite land, and say, "Oh, this is ours." Like the man who the hell are you to think that you, a lack of pigment having race of people, have the right to take the Heavenly Father's land and say it's yours, man? All right. It says, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with spiteful minds, to cast it out for a prey. Prophesy therefore concerning the land of Israel, and say unto the mountains, and to the hills, and to the rivers, and to the valleys, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I have spoken in my jealousy and in my fury, because ye have borne the shame of the heathen. Okay? Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, I have lifted up mine hand, surely the heathen that are about you, they shall bear their shame. Okay? But ye, O mountains of Israel, ye shall shout forth shoot forth your branches and yield your fruit to my people of Israel, for they are at hand to come. All right, because we was about to get back into the land. All right. So I'm gonna read down to verse 8 in the NLT. Verse 1, it says, "Son of man, prophesy to Israel's mountains. Give them this message, O mountains of Israel. Hear the word of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai." It says, "This is what the sovereign Lord Yahweh says: Your enemies have taunted you, saying, Aha! Now the ancient heights belong to us." And you know what? That land, of Judah, the land of Israel, period. But in particular, Judah, the land of Benjamin, okay, was always coveted. Okay, Jerusalem was, like the city of Jerusalem, was always coveted by everybody. And it's a beautiful land, man. So you had everybody pretty much jockeying for position and fighting and going to war to try and get that real estate. Okay. It says, verse 2, it says, "This is what the sovereign Yahweh says: Your enemies have taunted you, saying, Aha, now the ancient heights belong to us. Therefore, son of man, give the mountains of Israel this message from the sovereign Yahweh. Your enemies have attacked you from all directions, making you a property of many nations and the object of much mocking and slander. Therefore, O mountains of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Yahweh. He speaks to the hills and mountains, ravines and valleys, and to ruined wastes and long deserted cities that have been destroyed and mocked by the surrounding nations. This is what the sovereign Yahweh says: My jealous anger burns against these nations, especially Edom, because they have shown utter contempt for me by gleefully taking my land for themselves as plunder, you demons. Therefore prophesy to the hills and mountains, the ravines, the valleys of Israel. This is what the sovereign Yahweh says: I am furious that you have suffered shame before the surrounding nations. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Yahweh says: I have taken a solemn oath that those nations will soon have their own shame to endure, but the mountains of Israel will produce heavy crops of fruit for my people, for they will be coming home again soon. All right. So continuing on. All right. And once again, just to remind you, this is going into dirtbag Edomites. All right. Trying to take the land of Israel as their home. That comes with a heavy price. All right. And we're in the time when, this place, Babylon the Great, is about to be destroyed and pay for, everything that the nation of Esau has done to the nation of Israel, in antiquity and currently. All that is on Esau's tab, and he's about to have to pay for that. All right. Which is a beautiful thing, man. Esau's about to get his comeuppance. All right, this is number 3. It says prophetic condemnation. It says multiple biblical prophets, including Obadiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, pronounced divine judgment on Edom for their actions. For example, Obadiah foretold Edom's destruction as retribution for their violence against Judah. Obadiah 1:15-16. Ezekiel declared Edom would become desolate for its ancient hatred. Ezekiel 35:5-6. These texts portray Edom's actions as a culmination of centuries, and what I just say, everything that Esau did in antiquity and even now, they got to pay for it. So the accumulation of centuries of enmity. All right. So for centuries, Esau has had enmity and hatred for us. Okay. It's not love. Look at what he did via the transatlantic slave trade. That was not love. That was enmity. Okay. The most crucial and brutal and evil slavery, that has ever happened to a nation of people, happened to us by our own so-called brother. Okay, that's enmity. That's not love, man. Okay, scriptures say, love working no ill to his neighbor. All right, it says these texts portray Edom's actions as a culmination of centuries of enmity, tracing back to the rivalry between Jacob and Esau. All right, so let's get some of this. We'll get Ezekiel and Obadiah. So Ezekiel 35 and 5, which, man, what the hell? All right, whatever. I had it queued up, but Blue Letter be tripping, man. The app be tripping sometimes. You'll have scriptures queued up, and you know you'll set them all in order, and even double check, triple check to make sure it's all good and it be good. And then when you when you hit the record button, they start doing some of the scriptures that you have queued up will be all missing, which that's just Satan being a damn piece of shit. So let's start here at verse 1. It says prophecy against Mount Seir. I'm gonna read this in the KJV and the NLT. It says, moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir, and and prophesy against it, and say unto it, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, O Mount Seir, I am against thee, and I will stretch out mine hand against thee, and will make thee most desolate. I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh. All right, because Mount Seir is referring to Esau's land, Esau in particular. Okay, but Mount Seir is where Esau dwelt. Verse 5, it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, a perpetual or never ending, a continuous, hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity. So there you go. In the time when Jacob was going through it, by the hand of the Babylonians, you had the Edomites that was just ecstatic and elated to be able to to get in on some of the action. Yeah, let's go kill some niggers. That was their mindset. The same thing they have today, man. Okay, it says verse 5, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, and the time that their iniquity had an end. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, saith the Lord, saith Sith, it should be since. I don't know why it says Sith. That's weird. Let me let me check something real quick. That was weird. All right. Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. All right, Sith. Okay, that's all right. I don't remember reading that, but that's okay. All right, Sith. Thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Okay. Thus will I make Mount Seir most desolate, and cut off from it him that passeth out, and him that returneth. And I will fill his mountains with his slain men, in thy hills and in thy valleys, and in all thy rivers shall they fall that are slain with the sword. I will make thee perpetual desolations, and thy cities shall not return, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh. Because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine. All right, when they went into the land of Israel, okay, after the Babylonians did what they did to, Judea, and we just read that in Ezekiel 36. And we will possess it, whereas Yahweh was there. All right, because that's Yahweh's, the Heavenly Father's favorite land. That's His chosen land, man. All right, and it's not equipped for Edomite to be living there. All right, which is why it looks the way it looks now, because you got Edomites in the land of Israel, running amok, destroying it. It's all deserted and desert. That land is supposed to be a lot more fertile and green than what it is. Okay. It says, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will even do according to thine anger and according to thine envy, which thou hast used out of thy hatred against them, and I will make myself known among them when I have judged thee. Okay? And thou shalt know that I am Yahweh, and that I have heard all thy blasphemies which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying, they are laid desolate, they are given us to consume. Thus your own mouth have boasted against me, and have multiplied your words against me. I have heard them. And with the things that they're doing in the land of Israel right now, is them continuing those small hats, those Zionists, they're continuing with their Edomites. All right, let's get that understood. Those Zionists are Edomites, and they're continuing what we're reading. All right, the mindset and the blasphemy and the boasting and the pride. All right, what they're doing against, the actions they're taking out against those Palestinians in Gaza is them trying to completely, just eradicate, all nations out of that land, outside of them, outside of Amalek. Okay, so that way they can, really, really boast in the fact that they took over, that whole landmass. Okay, thus with your mouth ye have boasted against me, and have multiplied your words against me. I have heard them. Thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh, when the whole earth rejoiceth, I will make thee desolate. Okay, because not only the land of Israel's got to get touched with fire, but Babylon the Great's got to get touched with fire as well. All right, but the thing is, Babylon will never be inhabited. This place will be a complete desert. All right, Israel, the land of Israel, is going to be built back up, but America, aka Babylon the Great, is going to be completely desolate for all eternity. All right, it says, as thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. All right, because Idumea, America is can be spiritually considered Idumea as well. Because when you think of so-called white people. There's a couple places you think of. You think of, Europe. You think of Australia. You think of Canada, America, so on and so forth. But the main place uh, is America. Okay. The main hub, the capital of the Edomites is here in America, so to say. If you have ears to hear. Okay. So that's judgment on Esau, Edom for what they did, to the Israelites. Okay. Prophetic condemnation, if you will. All right. Number 4, it says historical debate. It says some scholars question the extent of Edom's involvement, noting that non-biblical evidence is scarce. Whatever. All right. Esau always wanna fucking, just like the devil, downplay his own destructive nature. Okay. Because the biblical sources outside of the Bible, or non-biblical sources, there's not too many of sources that's not in the Bible that talk about what Esau did. So we don't know if they really did all that. The fucking demons. That's Esau, man. Okay, trying to cover up their wickedness. Okay. It says the biblical accounts of many. The biblical accounts may reflect later Judean resentment rather than precise historical events. Whatever, nigga. Esau, damn demon, man. They all just be lying. The biblical accounts may reflect later Judean resentment rather than precise historical. Man, the Bible is pure. All right. It's no exaggeration. It is what it is. All right. Esau stay trying to get out of what they've done, man. It says, however, the consistency of the anti-Edomite rhetoric across prophetic texts suggests some historical basis for their role in Judah's downfall, and you're damn right. Okay, the Bible is consistent. Okay, it says aftermath and Idumean legacy. What legacy? You have no legacy. Inside joke. It says after the Babylonian conquest, Edomites, the devil later called Idumeans, all right, and I believe they started to be called Idumeans during the Hasmonean dynasty, if I'm not mistaken, which the Hasmoneans were Israelites, pretty much descendants of the Maccabees, because you had the first 3 or 4 brothers of the Maccabees, Judah Maccabees, Judas Maccabees, Jonathan, Simon, and I think either after Simon or John, that's when they stopped being called Maccabees and they would start to be called Hasmoneans, which I believe Hasmonean, that name comes from the grandfather of Mattathias, which Mattathias was the Maccabees, that was their father. He was the one that pretty much sparked the rebellion, or the war. Pretty much not even rebel. I wouldn't even consider a rebellion, because it was defense, or the defense against that Greek persecution and Greek influence. He's the one who pretty much stood up against that shit, and his sons follow suit after him. All right, but after either Simon or John, that's when the Maccabees started being referred to as Hasmoneans. The Hasmonean dynasty. Okay, but around that time is when Esau started to be referred to as Idumeans. Okay, it says after the Babylonian conquest, Edomites, later called Idumeans, migrated westward into southern Judah. All right, and That's them. We read about all that. Them going into the land of Judah, eventually converting to Judaism under Hasmonean rule. Okay, so it was under John Hyrcanus, which was a descendant of the Maccabees. Under him, he converted Edomites to pretty much the customs of the Israelites. Okay, and via that's when that's what allowed Herod, as it says, Herod the Great and Idumean exemplifies this complex legacy, and that's when they started taking on our customs and thinking that they was us. Okay, which is why the scriptures in Sirach tell you not to set your enemy by you, because that they gonna take over and sit in your seat thinking that they you. Hey man, this is a perfect example of the prime example of that. Okay. So let me see. Finishing this off, it says, in summary, the Edomites are the devil. I mean, excuse me. The Edomites are the pit, which they are the devil. That was an inside joke. All right. I'm being a little goofy right now, so I can, as Apostle Ramla would say, them doves. All right. All right. It says, in summary, the Edomites are depicted as opportunistic adversaries. That's all Esau is. They're opportunistic adversaries, man. They're gonna find a way to wiggle in there and stab you in the back. Okay. Opportunistic adversaries who exacerbate Judah's suffering during the Babylonian crisis, leading to their vilification in biblical tradition. Their actions symbolize a profound betrayal of kinship, inviting prophetic condemnation and shaping their historical reputation. All right, their historical reputation is the devil. All right, so I believe that's all the scriptures I had, and Abaraz's artist was a edifying listen to the brothers that actually listen, watch this video. So dirtbag Edomites, man. Esau's a devil and he's a dirtbag. Okay, he's an opportunistic dirtbag devil. All right, I think that'll be the title. So till next time, I say shalom.